Initialize sequence.
Welcome to The Baldcast, a production of John Canzano's Bald-Faced Truth.
Well, I am live in Miami. You can see I am coming at you from the Media Hotel, the JW Marriott Marquis. For any media member who complains, and media members love to complain, the Wi-Fi is great. They've got hospitality. I wrote all about it at johncanzano.com. My aim here is to take you behind the scenes a little bit at the CFP, take you somewhere that you can't otherwise go. Of course, if you look over my shoulder here, you can see this shot of sunny Miami. I have this like narrow little window shot between the hotels where you can actually see the bay and see some water there. But big football game obviously taking place coming up on Monday. It is 4:30 kickoff Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern time here in Miami. Really a big haul for me all the way across the country. It couldn't get any farther away to see a college football game. But we're going to have Miami and we're going to have Indiana. And this morning on the fourth floor of this hotel, they've got a ballroom. And this morning it was Curt Cignetti and Mario Cristobal taking the stage as part of the Media Day final news conference event for these two teams before they kick off and play a football game. I will give you my prediction for the game. I will tell you what I thought of the performance today with Cignetti and Mario Cristobal. And we'll talk a little bit about like what it's going to take to get to this stage in future sort of versions of this CFP, because, Oregon came within a blink here. Not really. I guess they got beat badly by Indiana, but came within a game of getting to this stage where they could have faced off against Mario Cristobal, the former Oregon coach. I think that would have been a lot more fun with storylines, but certainly some big ones here in Miami. Curt Cignetti, Mario Cristobal got on the stage today at the final news conference. They were both very stoic, right? That neither one of these guys is really going to let you in and let you behind the scenes. Cristobal, I think his approach, I think I wrote that, his approach could best be classified as sort of this, the intensity, this, we're taking every snap, every moment, every breath means something. A lot of gravity to what Mario Cristobal was saying. Curt Cignetti over the way, a little more relaxed, but still just as stoic. Got a little bit of Clint Eastwood or Hannibal Lecter in his delivery. And I noticed something very interesting early on in the news conference. Cignetti kept using words that Mario Cristobal uses to describe his own team. The physicality, the intensity, the violence. And Cignetti, I thought it was very intentional, went out of his way to kind of sandbag in a way that is like the sandbagging of all sandbaggings, where he's telling Cristobal, hey, look, mission accomplished, right? You've arrived on this stage. You've got the physicality. You've got the team. You guys are great. Basically, I don't believe that you put your pants on one leg at a time. I thought it was very interesting by Cignetti, but a little bit of a poker game going on. Neither one of these coaches really wanting to say too much about their teams. They were asked a couple of questions that I'm going to share with you here on this broadcast, but they were asked, they were asked what it would mean. What would it mean to your program to win the national championship? And they kept going back and forth. Cignetti would go first one time and then Cristobal would go first the next time. But Cignetti happened to go first on this question. And I thought it was very interesting. Like, what would it mean to get to the national championship game? Certainly, there were a couple of moments like this, but I want to play this one for you here. Curt Cignetti, Mario Cristobal kind of sparring a little bit.
It'd mean we're the national champion.
Coach Cristobal?
It would mean we're the national champions.
We're going to take our next question over on the right.
I mean, you can literally get from that. Neither one of these guys was gonna let the other one have a word. But Cristobal almost looking over at Cignetti going, that was really good. I think I'm just going to repeat what he said. There were a couple of those moments. They had their final practice of the season yesterday. So each one of these teams, Miami's certainly playing this game at home with a home crowd, and the ticket prices for this thing off the rails. I don't know if you've looked at the secondary market for tickets. If you want to get into Hard Rock Stadium for this game tomorrow night, you're going to have to pay about $3,600 just to get in. We're talking nosebleed seats, upper level. And in that way, this event has taken on a little bit more of a feel like a Super Bowl, right? There's parties going on. I'm going to show you some video in a minute here about one of the concerts that was put on. They did this big live concert. It has the feel with sponsors and the parties and the VIP events and the access, and the CFP is certainly trying to channel the NFL in this event. And the ticket price is completely NFL big time Super Bowl like, with $3,600 as your get-in price a day before the game. You want to sit on the lower level in a really good seat, 30 or 40 yard line, you're talking $8,000 and up. And so the ticket prices for this thing, they priced out normal fans. They've priced out families, of course. I've seen a lot of Miami fans, and there was a concern, I think, a little bit with Miami getting in this game, that the local hotels would suffer a little bit, that there wouldn't be quite the tourism impact, that if you had an Oregon, matchup, against Ohio State, like there could have been, two different fan bases here and a lot of people visiting. But, a couple things, like the Miami fans snapped up a lot of those tickets. They're turning this into a home game. And so you wonder how many fans from Indiana will actually make this trip. Will this be a similar home field advantage that the Hoosiers had in the Peach Bowl against the Ducks in the semifinal round? Or will it be a more balanced crowd? Will the Indiana fans who told me they were, selling their tractor to come to the game, will those fans actually show up here and pay $3,000 and up for a ticket and fill up these hotel rooms? Now, the Visitors Bureau tells me that the hotel rooms are sold out. So whether or not that's Miami fans just going, hey, let's make a weekend of it, let's go get a hotel and let's have a party and stay down there, and whether that's the case or whether you have a lot of Indiana fans or sponsors that are buying up the hotel rooms, we shall see. But the hotels are sold out. Ton of parties. The media party, for example, is being held on this yacht in the harbor right over my shoulder. And, it's going to be a big deal. They had DJ parties. I want to play a little video. This was my photographer, Najee, went out and shot one of the concerts last night. Had a couple of DJs. He told me he felt like there were 500,000 people there. It was a free concert. I don't know if there were 500,000 people there, but that's what he said. It felt like there were 500,000 people there for that concert. But just a whole big festive thing, and it feels like a Super Bowl. I said this last year. I think that the CFP is trying to turn this event, obviously, into a sponsorship corporate event like a Super Bowl. But I think they're losing some of the charm when they do that, aren't they? I mean, you tell me in the comment section, are they losing some charm when they start pricing out regular fans? Because I could see regular fans who are just in the Miami area. Can you afford to come bring your family to the game, go to a college football playoff championship game? I think one of the beautiful things about college football has always been the accessibility to fans. And we're seeing that across the footprint of the Big Ten, the SEC, some of the bigger conferences where ticket prices have been hiked. Why? Because they're revenue sharing and they've got to find that money somewhere. They're all looking for the $20.5 million. But I also talked to a couple of the commissioners who are on the management committee for the CFP. They're meeting here this week in Miami. They're talking about trying to wring more money out of the assets they currently have. Can they turn this event into something much bigger, much more lucrative? And you can feel it when you're in the city. And I've covered 9 Super Bowls, right? I've been to 5 Olympic Games. And there's that feel here to the CFP in the last 2, like since the playoff really expanded to 12. Last year, I felt it a little bit. This year, I really feel it. And maybe some of that has to do with the fact that it's in Miami and Miami's the home team. But it's just this feel of corporate sponsors and the money that is coming out of the CFP that it just hits you over the head when you're here. Curt Cignetti also had the soundbite of the day at the news conference earlier today. And again, the final news conference before these two teams kick off. Indiana's an 8.5-point favorite. Cignetti's been told and heard. He said it was a rat poison. He called it rat poison, that people are saying Indiana's going to win this game and they're so good and they're dominant. He said that has the potential to kind of impact the performance of his team, certainly contentment. And when you're told over and over how great you are and how it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to win. But Cignetti did a little bit of speaking about that final practice, because there was a report out there that said that the Indiana players at the end of yesterday's practice, the last practice that they'll have as this group, the players all hugged each other. And then Mario Cristobal, who's sitting just down the way from Cignetti, is asked, what about your team? Was it sentimental? Was it nostalgic? And Cristobal touched on it, but he's not a warm, fuzzy guy. Here's what Cignetti said, though, about all that warm fuzziness.
It is a close team, and Witnessed quite a bit of sentimentalism throughout the week from some of our seniors who we've been with quite a long time. I think it's time to sharpen the saw now, throw those warm fuzzies out the door, that sentimentalism. It's time to go play a game against a great opponent. We got to have a sharp edge going into this game. And, you don't go to war with warm milk and cookies.
When he said that, I looked over at Mario Cristobal, and we've all seen this look on someone's face when they hear somebody else say something they wish they had said. Cristobal was like, damn it, that's pretty good. Like, he just kind of nodded to himself. I won't be surprised if warm milk and cookies shows up in Mario Cristobal's pregame speech to the Hurricanes. I don't think the outcome of this game is foregone. And I know people who have seen Indiana blow Alabama and Oregon off the field in back-to-back games are probably looking at this game and going, oh, it's just going to be more of the same. We have that bias, right? I don't think it's ever more evident than in the playoffs in sports. When you see a team win the way Indiana has won, you can't unsee it. And you can't foresee things happening any other way. I think Indiana is the better team. I think Cignetti's the better coach. I also think, though, that Miami being at home in this game and the physicality that Miami has creates some problems for Indiana. I think that home field advantage is worth some points. I think the fact that Miami has shown and demonstrated in winning 3 straight playoff games, they haven't been home for any of these games. They have shown a physicality that their opponents did not have. They had the better physicality than Texas A&M. I like the way they played in the victory against Mississippi to get to the championship round. I think Mario Cristobal's team can hold its own at the point of attack. The bigger question is Carson Beck against Fernando Mendoza, right? There's a difference there. Which one of those guys do you trust? I trust Mendoza. He's been better. I saw him up close in that game against Oregon. He was just fantastic. But I think if Beck doesn't make mistakes, and granted, he's been on this stage twice with Georgia, if Beck can hold his head together, if Miami can play their game at the line of scrimmage, if they can avoid Indiana getting a couple of plays that are, you don't want the opening kickoff to go back for a touchdown. You don't want a punt return. You don't want to give up something cheap on the special teams. I think Indiana stays in this game. I have it something like 23-17, 24-17, 23-20, 23-21. I think Mario Cristobal's team can play with Indiana. For that reason, I think they'll stay within the point spread. Big event, big stage. How do you get here? Well, one of the things that occurred to me while Cignetti and Cristobal were talking on the news conference today was, that there were a lot of programs that had openings over the years that never looked at Curt Cignetti. He was at James Madison. It's a little school, right? Smaller level of football. If you coach there, can you really coach at the biggest levels of football? Cignetti's proven that if you can coach, you can coach. And I think there's some great examples of that. Scott Ruick at Oregon State was a great coach at George Fox. You're talking about a Division III guy who then takes a Division I program that had no history in women's basketball to a Final Four. Pat Casey, same thing. George Fox to Oregon State, 3 national championships. I mean, there's some parallels there that if you can coach, you can coach. But why didn't anybody else give Cignetti a chance? Why was it Indiana? Everyone else kind of looks over and goes, yeah, that's a cute idea. But they don't do that. They go with the same old retreads. Now we're starting to see some minds open because everybody wants to duplicate Cignetti. And there's going to be a line at spring football at his office with coaches who are coming in wanting to see what Indiana does. What's the secret sauce? But I think part of it is you've got 2 coaches in this game, Cignetti at Indiana and Cristobal at Miami, who, 7, 8, 9 years ago, nobody was hiring them to be a head coach. Mario Cristobal only got to this position. Why? Because at Oregon, Willie Taggart left after a year, and Cristobal was sitting there, and he was the recruiter, and Oregon kind of went, oh, crap, we need to promote Cristobal or we're going to lose this recruiting class, and they promoted him. He had a losing record as a head coach in his previous stop. Nobody was hiring Mario Cristobal. In fact, had the job just been open and there had been enough time for Oregon to kind of hold a normal search, I don't think they go with Cristobal. I don't think he gets the keys, but he does. And then he takes Oregon to a Rose Bowl, proves he can recruit. This era in some ways is suited perfectly to Mario Cristobal. I think, we watch his game management and we go, okay, he's not the great game manager, but man, he can win games in recruiting and he's proven that. And certainly he's got something to sell here at Miami that he didn't have to sell at Oregon, and that he can say, this is where I went to school. this is the entity that gave me the opportunity. Look at all the alumni that are on the sideline with him during games. He's got an angle. He's got well-funded NIL war chest, and he can recruit. He's a guy who connects with people. I mean, I saw him when he walked into the news conference. He got up onto the stage. He kind of surveyed the room. I'm sitting off to the right. Like, I covered him for 4 seasons. He makes eye contact with me and he mouths the words. He goes, "How are your kids?" Like, there's a recruiter. Like, I don't think he really cares. Like, he wants to connect with me in that moment, but he's saying, hey, there's somebody, I'm going to use this opportunity to kind of, forge a relationship that I already have or advance a relationship. He's not dumb. These coaches aren't dumb. And I think it's interesting to kind of look at Cristobal and Cignetti and go, these are unlikely head coaches that probably in a traditional era would not have had the opportunities that they've had. But it's this era of the transfer portal. Why? The JMU coach who can bring 13 players and 6 coaches with him to Indiana looks awfully appealing compared to the other coaches that are out there. You don't really promote. You want to promote a assistant or a coordinator somewhere and have to totally rebuild? Or do you go get a guy who can bring, 8 or 10 players with him? Cignetti presents that in this era. Mario Cristobal, same thing. He's a recruiter who has learned to be a better game manager, who has learned to be a better coach, and who has put together a roster that I think has a puncher's chance in this game. Am I picking Indiana to win? I am. But I think this is a closer game than most people expect. Again, I've got it like 23-17, 24-17 within that 8.5-point spread. And I think this will be a 1-score game late in the fourth quarter. I think Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes will have a chance. Now, I mentioned some of the alumni that are on the sideline. Cristobal was asked about Michael Irvin, who is become is he a distraction? No, he's become sort of the unofficial mascot of this Miami team. Former player, obviously played at a high level, but Saturday Night Live had some fun with that whole thing. Love this. They did it during the annual installment or the weekly installment where they sort of go through the news. And Michael Che here talking with Michael Irvin, the two Michaels.
Been on the Miami sidelines all playoffs despite graduating 40 years ago.
Yep. Here's me catching at the game on all fours. Here's me screaming. And here's me whispering.
I love that. They captured that perfectly, by the way. Good job by SNL. I like that they're going into sports, too. But look, I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a fun game. Pay attention to the Super Bowl-like feel to it. They're going to do the Star-Spangled Banner. They're going to do God Bless America. There's going to be a flyover. The president's coming to the game. That's going to cause, they sent out a bulletin saying that's going to cause a lot of extra congestion and security at the stadium. So there's going to be this big feel to this college football playoff national championship game here tomorrow. I will broadcast live tomorrow. It'll be the same time, noon Pacific time, 3 o'clock Eastern time, right here on this YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and like. But before I go, I'm going to leave you with a little video that my photographer shot just at the stadium. He's out at Hard Rock Stadium. He took this video, and he ended up kind of shooting a panoramic shot. You can see kind of the scene before the scene, the calm before the storm, as they say. All right, I appreciate everybody who tuned into this. Read me at johncanzano.com. I'm going to take you behind the scenes at the CFP. That's my job. I want to give you something that you can't get anywhere else. I appreciate you.